Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky from RJF Makes. If you're joining us today, you're wanting to complete the quilt top of the bird panel quilt. So today we are going to be sewing row 2. So previously the last video was all about row 1 and row 2. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Becky. Hit the subscribe button and basically give me those thumbs up if you like this video, and you'll see new up and coming videos whenever I upload them, especially from new patterns, generally new patterns that I'm bringing out. So to follow along with this sew along, you'll need to pop over to the blog post that's linked down below in the description. This is sew along number 2 of a 5 blog post course over 10 weeks. So all the cutting out measurements are listed within the blog post, and don't forget to label up your pieces like last time in the last blog of all the letters regarding this row. Just like last time, we're going to be putting all this together via the video. So this is what the final quilt top will look like, and these are the rows that I've been talking about. So you've got row 1, row 2 and row 3, and today we are working on row. So let's jump right into it and start making row 2. So you would have cut out all your pattern pieces from the blog post. So that's from A to F. So taking 2 small bird panels and 2 D pieces, taking 1 small bird panel and 1 D piece, lay it on the table with the D piece to the left hand side of the bird panel, right side facing up. Now you're going to match up those 2 long edges, the right side long edge of the panel of the birds and the right side of the D side. Matching these 2 pieces right sides together, pin along down this 1 long edge. Taking the other small bird panel and the other D piece, pop the bird panel and the D piece laid out on the table just as in the video. This time the D piece will be on the right hand side of the bird block. Then you're going to match the 2 long edges together, right sides together, pin down that long edge. Now you're going to take this to your sewing machine, sew both of these 2 pinned edges 1/4 inch using a stitch length 2.5. Just like in the previous blog post and the previous video, you are going to have to set the seam. So that's with your iron and a little bit of steam. Set the seam and then basically press the seam to the D side when you press the seam open. Do this for both seams. Then pop these to one side. Now grab 4 C pieces, 4 B pieces and 2 A pieces and lay them out as I show on the actual video. Now you're going to join the A's to the B's on the right hand side, matching them right sides together and pin. And you're going to do that for both A and B pieces on the right hand sides. You're going to pin these together and then go to your sewing machine and sew these together using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Before we go and press these seams open, we are going to now attach the other B pieces to the opposite side of the A piece. So join those right sides together, pin them together and then sew using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now back to the iron, and we're going to set those seams and then we're going to press the seams to the B piece sides. Now grabbing your C pieces and now the A and B pieces that you've just joined together, lay them out on your table as in the video. Now you're going to join the C long sides to the two long sides of the A and B pieces. However, to do this you need to find the center of the blue block, the blue piece, that's the A pieces, so fold them both in half and give them a crease, and then do the same with the C pieces, and then basically pin them right sides together, matching up those creases, and then sew those two long edges using 1/4 inch seam allowance at stitch length 2.4, and then do that for the second long edges of the A and B pieces. So you have one long oblong of each block that should go either side of that center bird block. You will notice that the C pieces will overhang the A and B pieces on either side. Don't worry, we will be trimming those back in the next step. So in between sewing the A and B pieces to the C pieces, don't forget to set your seam and press the seams open. Now I press my seam towards the C pieces, just like you did with the C pieces that are already attached to the A and B pieces. You're now going to fold the A piece in half again to find the center of the other long edge, and then basically fold the C pieces that are opposite it, that aren't attached, and then you're going to pin them right sides together, matching up the center creases, and then pin along that edge. You do this for both pieces, and then you're going to take them to your sewing machine, sew 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then once again you're going to set that seam with your steam on your iron, and then press the seam towards the other C piece. Now those two C pieces that are overhanging the A and B pieces, you now need to trim those back to the A and B pieces. You need to do that for all four sides that are overhanging, just like I am in the video. Now grab the center small bird panel piece and pop that in between the two blocks that you've just produced, just like in the video, as you can see as I lay it on my work surface. So you'll notice that when you lay them next to each other, there will be an overhang on top and the bottom on the C pieces. You need to fold the combined A, B and C pieces on one long side to find the center crease, and you need to do that for both pieces. And you also need to fold the bird image into half so you can find the center of the two long sides. Then once you've done that, you're going to pin one A, B and C block to the side that is matching to the bird panel, and you're going to pin those right sides together, matching up that center crease, and then you are going to sew 1/4 inch seam allowance, press that seam open, and then you're going to repeat the same for the other A, B and C block on the opposite side of the bird small block. You're going to set those seams, and then you're going to press the seam towards the A, B and C blocks away from the small bird panel in the center. Now you'll see the overhang on the A, B and C blocks, top and bottom. You need to trim back the overhang excess away and make sure it's level with the bird block edges. Grabbing the two bird panel pieces with the D pieces attached, lay them out, as you can see in the video, on the opposite side of that centre block that you've just produced, and the D pieces should be on the very outer edges. Match up the two edges, right sides together, of the bird outer panel with the D block attached to the A, B and C piece that it's closest to. Then you're going to sew them together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then you're going to repeat this for the other bird block and D piece and attach that to the other A, B and C block. Now once you've sewn these blocks together, you're going to set the seam and then give it a steam and press those seams towards the bird blocks. Now we should have that centre mini row within row 2 complete. Now we need to do the two outer edges of row 2. Taking the remainder A and B pieces, lay the 4 A pieces down with the B's opposite each other and having the A block pieces in between, just like I have in the video. Now with the B pieces on the top row and the A pieces short sides, match them right sides together and pin. Then you're going to sew these a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then before we press these seams open, we're going to repeat this but with the B's from the bottom row and match those to the opposite side of the A pieces. So now your blocks should look like they are in the video, with the B pieces attached to either side of the A pieces. We now need to set those seams and then press the seams towards the B pieces. Now grabbing the E pieces, working with 2 E pieces, we're going to work on 1 row at a time of the E and F pieces. So with the E pieces and the strips that we've just sewn together, find the centre on the right hand side of the first strip and find the centre of the A piece. Then find the centre of one of the short edges on the E piece. Repeat this for the other strip that we've just sewn together, but this time on the left hand side, and crease the centre, and then obviously for the other short edge on the E piece, just like I'm doing in the video. Now matching up the correct creases on the correct sides of the E pieces and the A piece, pin them right sides together and pin along those two short edges. There will be overhang on the two strips that we sewed together. Repeat this same process for the other two strips that we sewed together and the two other E pieces. Then once you've done this, basically go to your sewing machine and sew these together using 1/4 inch seam allowance. We are now going to set all those 4 seams that we have just sewn, and then we're going to open up the seam and set it to the E piece side. You will have overhangs of those strips, don't worry, we will be trimming back all those strips in the next step. Once again, we need to find the centre of the edges that have no E pieces attached to. So we're going to fold them in half and find the centre of the A block pieces. And remember to crease them. Now taking one F piece on one short edge, fold it in half and press the centre. Then match this up to the E, A and B pieces that we have just, and do this for all of them. Now you're going to pin these right sides together, matching up the seams and the edges and the basically where we creased them. Pin them together and then sew using 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then once again we are going to set that seam and press the seam open. And like I've already said, don't worry about that overhang, we are going to trim those back. And you need to do this for both rows of E's and F's with those sewn together strips. So you should have 2 strips per E and F row. You're going to set those seams and press the seam to the F piece. I actually don't know what happened here, but my I'm just basically joining the pieces off the camera and forgot to press pause on the camera, so just bear with us. And once again, I'm just basically setting those seams and pressing those seams open and giving the whole strip a good press. Now it's time to trim back those strips that are overhanging. Trim them back to the F and E pieces edges, so it ends up being one long strip. Do this to all the strip pieces that are overhanging. Then once you've done that, you're going to fold the strip in half to find the centre and give it a good crease. Taking the centre part of the row with the bird blocks, we're going to fold this in half and give it a good crease, so that the crease should fall on the centre bird image. I personally like to pop a pin on my crease so I can see it. Then you're going to match up the centre crease of the bottom F and E piece to the bottom of the middle row bird piece, and you're going to match up the two centre creases right sides together and pin along that one long edge. You'll notice the mini strips that we sewed on the E and F pieces will be about just under 1 inch away from the edge of the finishing of the bird's outer blocks. That's a bit different to what's in the diagram. That's the reason being is the diagram was programmed in wrong, and I forgot to pop the right diagram on the slides that you can see on the left hand side of the video. Now you're going to sew this together, this seam, and you're going to sew using 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to do this for the top E and F pieces as well, joining on the top of the bird inner row of the row A. That was a tongue twister. Then you're going to basically sew using 1/4 inch seam allowance, bring it to your iron and set both of those seams, and then you're going to press the seams towards the E and F strips on the top and the bottom. You will notice there is overhang of the E pieces on the two short ends of this row 2. Don't worry, we're going to trim those back. So now we have pressed and set those seams. and we're coming to the final part of row 2. So we now need to trim back the 2 E pieces to match the D outer piece, and you need to do this to both short edges. Now row 2 is complete. We now need to move on to completing the quilt top with the row 1 and row 3 that you completed from the previous video. Taking row 1 and join this to row 2 on the top edge of row 2. Make sure it's right sides together, pin along the edge. Repeat this for row 3, joining the bottom edge of row 2. You'll notice on row 2 there will be a bit of overhang on the 2 short edges once you've completed the complete top of the quilt. Don't worry, we're now going to trim those back to the 2 rows, the top and bottom rows, and to make one large square for the quilt top. Now your quilt top should look like this. This is my finished quilt top, which I've just put up on the wall ready for the next part of the quilt. Thanks for joining me on this second part of the quilt, and we will be seeing you soon. Bye!